Welcome to Tale of Deception Studio. After you're done viewing, spread this narrative. It might resonate with someone. I used to consider marriage as a union of partnership. Now I realize it could symbolize calculated robbery. My name is Tyler. I am 42 years old and an engineer, married for 16 years to a woman I thought I knew. Her name was Brooke. However, her identity changed on a Tuesday in March, from Brooke Hartman to Brooke Sinclair. The divorce between us was supposed to be finalized 3 weeks later. This name change wasn't a step towards healing or resolution. Instead, it set off her intricate plan unraveling. I need to go back half a year when our relationship still appeared salvageable. Brooke and I were experiencing issues common among couples in therapy sessions. We had grown apart due to differing priorities. She was engrossed in her wellness consulting business, while I was overseeing infrastructure projects across multiple states. Initially, we were co-homeowners but not romantic partners. In September, she suggested a temporary separation to assess our individual needs. Agreeing, I moved into a downtown condo while she remained in the house. After 6 months apart, we evaluated our feelings and informed friends that we needed personal space for reflection. Splitting our joint account evenly, we each received approximately $73,000. The house was still co-owned until further decisions were made. I continued to pay my portion of the mortgage. In November, I discovered irregularities on our frozen credit card, small expenses at unfamiliar restaurants, and a spa resort weekend. Inquiring about these charges, Brooke mentioned forgetting to update her payment apps, yet she never reimbursed me. In December, Gerald Cortez, our financial advisor, contacted me regarding account discrepancies. For several years, a trustworthy individual handled our retirement accounts. Recently, he asked if I had given authorization for Brooke to obtain withdrawal paperwork for our IRA, which I hadn't. Upon learning this, Gerald grew silent for about 10 seconds and said, "Tyler," carefully. "She came in last week with a notarized letter of authorization. It had both your signatures on it. I'd never signed anything." Immediately, he put a freeze on the account and advised me to consult a lawyer. This is when the amicable separation took an unexpected turn. I hired a family law attorney named Barrett Coleman, renowned for uncovering hidden assets, as my legal representative. In our initial meeting, I detailed all the evidence: the questionable credit card charges, the forged authorization, and the growing suspicion that Brooke wasn't merely leaving but moving funds too. Hearing this, Barrett leaned back in his chair. "This is what we're going to do." Immediately, we initiated divorce proceedings, demanded comprehensive financial disclosure, and hired a forensic accountant before she had an opportunity to conceal her assets. I filed on January 3rd. Brooke was served at her wellness studio on the 5th, where 3 clients happened to witness the process server during one of her consultations. She called me that evening for the first time in 16 years, expressing genuine fear in her voice. "You didn't have to embarrass me like that," she complained. "We could have managed this discreetly." I reminded her of how discreetly you had withdrawn from our retirement account, I said, pointing out your forged signature. After a moment of silence, she claimed ignorance and hung up. That was our final direct conversation. The financial discovery process began in February. It was then that Barrett's forensic accountant, Sandra Cross, who resembled a kindergarten teacher but possessed the inquisitive nature of a bloodhound, started gathering our financial records for the past 3 years. In just 1 week, Sandra uncovered something significant enough for Barrett to reschedule our meeting immediately. Upon my arrival, Barrett instructed me to sit down. The conference table was covered with printouts, giving the impression of a crime scene mapping. "Tyler," he said, "$847,000 has been systematically transferred out of your joint assets over the past 14 months by your wife." I found it hard to believe, not because it was amusing, but because the amount seemed so immense I couldn't comprehend it. We didn't possess that much in liquid assets. Sandra walked me through the details. Brooke had begun with small withdrawals under $10,000 in December of the previous year to evade bank reporting requirements. She established 3 LLCs under her wellness consulting umbrella, each with their own business accounts. Initially, she began billing our shared account for consulting fees and business expenses, which, due to her handling of the bookkeeping, I rarely found time to scrutinize. By August, she transferred $400,000. By December, she established accounts in the Cayman Islands via one of her LLCs. The remaining $447,000 resided in offshore accounts from which I had no legal recourse. "Is this lawful?" I inquired. "No," Barrett replied. "It's fraud, it's concealment of assets. And if we can demonstrate premeditation, it could warrant criminal charges. Given our transaction logs, falsified documents, and her digital signatures designating herself as the sole owner of money contributed to our joint endeavors, this should have been convincing enough. 14th of March, Brooke had one more trick up her sleeve and apparently thought it was ingenious. I received a bank notification stating that our mortgage payment had failed, which didn't add up as we had auto payments set from our joint account. Logging in to verify the balance, I found the account frozen and inaccessible. I immediately contacted the fraud department, speaking with a man named Felix. After examining my account, Felix grew silent. "Mr. Hartman, I'm required to escalate this issue to my supervisor." 30 minutes later, Lauren Brennan, the supervisor, called back. "Mr. Hartman, our system flagged 18 unauthorized transactions totaling $847,000 over the past 6 weeks under your joint account, with the beneficiary accounts being registered under a different legal name, Brooke Sinclair." That's when I finally understood her scheme. In the preceding 3 weeks, following our divorce filing, Brooke had visited the Department of Motor Vehicles and legally restored her surname to its maiden form before the divorce was finalized or listed as part of the settlement. She had spent $100 for a fresh driver's license while we were still legally wedded, subsequently utilizing this new identity to establish accounts, transfer property ownership, and generate a trail that distinguished Brooke Sinclair from Brooke Hartman. Her intention was to assert that these accounts pertained to Brooke Sinclair, an independent legal entity with no marital connections, should the divorce proceed, and I seek asset recovery. However, she underestimated the obvious nature of her actions, which the bank's artificial intelligence detected in a mere 6 hours. This is because, upon legally altering one's name, it simultaneously registers across all government databases, including the DMV, Social Security Administration, and Internal Revenue Service. Upon shifting substantial funds from joint accounts under an old legal name, the bank becomes alerted. Its fraud detection mechanisms are specifically designed for such situations. Lauren at the bank expressed apologies but was resolute. "All actions are suspended pending inquiry. We've marked this as a potential case of identity theft and financial fraud. You'll have to visit us with legal documentation confirming these transactions weren't sanctioned by you." I promptly contacted Barrett. He was ecstatic on the call. "Tyler, she's just provided us with our evidence, those accounts under investigation from the bank." Investigation. That means we'll obtain transaction logs we wouldn't have access to through routine discovery. The next 3 weeks were the most grueling of my life. The bank's fraud department gathered every record, IP addresses indicating where transactions originated, timestamps, and electronic signatures. Sandra Cross issued a subpoena for Brooke's laptop and phone records. Obtained documents detailing her LLC filings, offshore account applications, and emails with a financial advisor named Donovan Reeves, who specialized in protecting assets during high-net-worth divorces, but was found to be assisting individuals in committing fraud. Emails between Brooke and Donovan showed she wanted to conceal funds from her then-husband, Tyler. Barrett constructed the case as if prosecuting a conspiracy, with each piece of evidence pointing to premeditation and concealment. It was revealed that Brooke didn't merely move money during the divorce. She had been planning this for over a year. The pseudonym change was meant to make legal matters unclear and delay asset recovery for years, but instead, it led to her arrest. On April 12, we appeared in court. Prior to the upcoming divorce hearing, an emergency motion concerning frozen assets and secret accounts was addressed by Judge Morrison. Attending were Brooke, accompanied by her lawyer Griffin Walsh, who seemed fresh out of law school. Griffin attempted to claim that Brooke's name change was a legal right, and that the accounts under Brooke Sinclair were separate assets. Judge Morrison allowed him to speak for approximately 90 seconds before interrupting. "Counselor," he said, "are you arguing that your client, who changed her name 3 weeks after filing for divorce, did so specifically to conceal marital assets, and this is somehow legitimate?" Griffin stumbled over his words. In response, Barrett rose with Sandra's evidence binder, asserting, "Your Honor, she was reclaiming her identity by transferring funds from joint accounts into offshore LLCs using forged authorizations." Defense counsel presents evidence covering a 14-month period, indicating systematic concealment of assets. The defendant, formerly Mrs. Hartman, allegedly forged her husband's signature on withdrawal forms from his retirement account and fabricated invoices on their joint account for sham services. Over $800,000 was moved into unrecognized accounts. When the divorce proceedings commenced, she altered her legal name and expedited transfers to create a perceived legal split between her old and new identities. Judge Morrison addressed the defendant, Brooke. Brooke, on March 14th, did you not change your legal name while still married to Mr. Hartman? In a barely audible voice, she responded, I did. I was safeguarding my business interests. The judge asked again, did you move marital assets into accounts under your new legal name, Brooke? Her response, yes, I did. Removing his glasses, Judge Morrison declared, this is what will happen next. Hartman is given exclusive authority over all combined assets, pending a thorough financial examination. Mrs. Sinclair has been commanded to disclose comprehensive documentation for every account, LLC, and offshore investment from the past 2 years within 72 hours. Failure to comply will result in contempt charges and potential criminal fraud investigations. If she does not comply, this matter may be escalated to the district attorney's office. The courtroom was quiet, with Mrs. Sinclair appearing pale. Griffin frantically jotted notes, attempting to find a solution. Barrett stood up once more. Your Honor, one final point. We possess evidence that Mrs. Sinclair collaborated with a financial advisor named Donovan Reeves, known for concealing assets. We'd like to request his records as well. The judge consented, looking at Brooke one last time before speaking. Mrs. Sinclair, you would have been better off splitting the assets equally. Now you risk losing everything and facing prison time. Court adjourned. I exited the courtroom feeling a sensation I hadn't experienced in 2 years, clarity, not joy nor vindication, merely the realization that justice could indeed prevail. Over the next 72 hours, Brooke's lawyer disclosed various details. 4 limited liability companies, 7 bank accounts, 2 offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, investment accounts I was unaware of. The total exceeded Sandra's initial estimation by $963,000 due to Brooke's continuous money transfers until her accounts were frozen, a week later when the bank's investigation concluded. The fraud team authenticated that all 18 flagged transactions were unauthorized and that Brooke's electronic signatures appeared on documents dated before her legal name change, indicating forgery using her future identity for deceitful purposes. This wasn't just ordinary fraud. It was premeditated fraud with intent to deceive, as evidenced by the documents. On May 3rd, the district attorney filed criminal charges. Arrested at her wellness studio, where she was previously served divorce papers 4 months prior, Brooke Sinclair accepted a plea deal involving 3 years of probation, complete restitution of all assets, a lifelong ban from financial businesses, and a felony conviction on her record to avoid prison due to a clean record and cooperation. The divorce was finalized in June, granting the house, retirement accounts, 90% of recovered assets to the unnamed person. Brooke kept her wellness studio, which closed 2 months later following the fraud revelation. Clients discovered about the conviction and paid enough for her legal fees, leading to Donovan Reeves losing his financial advisory license. Griffin Walsh, Brooke's attorney, submitted a bar complaint against him for promoting client fraud. Recently learned that Donovan is employed in car sales. I sold the house in August as it was filled with too many reminders of the spouse I believed I had married. The new place I purchased is nestled in the mountains, nearby one of my work sites. Resumed hiking and sleeping soundly. A point often overlooked about financial fraud and divorce is that it rarely boils down to money. As it turns out, Brooke didn't require $900,000. We could have shared everything equally, leaving her with approximately $450,000 plus a significant portion of the house equity. She would have been content, but she didn't seek contentment. Instead, she yearned for victory. She aimed to retaliate for each business trip, late-night work, an occasion where I prioritized infrastructure projects over her wellness retreats. For 14 months, she constructed an intricate plan involving falsified signatures, offshore accounts, fake corporations, and ultimately a name change, assuming it would make her elusive. However, she hadn't anticipated that contemporary banking systems, engineered by individuals like me, engineers skilled in creating fraud detection algorithms, were tailored to detect exactly the kind of activity she was involved in. As soon as her new driver's license data was uploaded to the DMV database and she attempted to transfer funds from accounts under her previous name, the system identified it as identity theft. From the bank's viewpoint, Brooke Sinclair was embezzling from Brooke Hartman, thus she had inadvertently outwitted herself completely. I received a message from her last month, our first contact since the plea deal. She inquired if I would compose a character reference for her. She was submitting applications to a wellness certification program and required letters asserting she had learned from her errors. I didn't react, not due to resentment, but apathy. She's no longer a part of my existence, merely the individual who imparted the wisdom that sometimes retaliation is constructing a life they can never influence again, as I am currently dating someone named Ruby. She's an architect. Our paths crossed on a hiking trail last September when I assisted her in repairing a broken tent pole during a storm. We proceeded cautiously. On our fourth date, I revealed details about Brooke, anticipating her dismissal. However, Ruby responded, "So you wed someone who thought she was wiser than bank scam systems? That must have been draining." This made me laugh until I wept, marking the first time I shed tears over it all. These days, I rarely ponder Brooke. Every now and then, I come across news about financial fraud cases and ponder if she's reading the same articles, recognizing her own errors. Primarily, I concentrate on constructing enduring entities, bridges that can withstand half a century, bonds established upon genuine trust, a life untouched by forged signatures or hidden funds in Caymans. The mountain house I own, I placed it in a trust, solely my name, no joint accounts, no shared assets. Ruby and I have been together nearly a year now, and she's never suggested merging finances. When I proposed the idea as potentially practical, she replied, "Tyler, I adore you, but I also cherish my independent bank account that nobody can freeze." It was then I realized she was the one. Brooke still dwells in town. I spotted her filling gas at the station near our old residence. She appeared diminished somehow, weary. Upon eye contact, she looked away swiftly and returned to her vehicle, failed to finish fueling. I completed my own refueling, bought a coffee, and traveled to Ruby's abode. A weekend excursion was arranged to Montana, where Ruby wished to snap some hot spring images for a client's eco-resort venture. I once believed betrayal annihilated, now I understand it does. It demonstrates true character, and if fortunate, it reveals your own too. I am the composed one who recorded events, trusted the system when presented with suitable proof, built a life worth saving, and then defended it. Brooke is the individual who assumed altering her name would alter her repercussions. She erred. That's the tale. If you've persevered until now, thank you for listening. Share if you know someone needing to hear that justice may not be immediate, but it's often unavoidable. If you're experiencing something similar, document everything, secure competent legal counsel, trust the process, as bank fraud detection algorithms work in your favor.